Okay, good morning or good afternoon whenever you're watching this Northside Church. I'm here with Lindsay Perkins. It is Monday, April 14th, the Monday of Holy Week. And this is our first Holy Week video, and Lindsay was gracious enough to be our first person. So good morning, Lindsay. How are you this morning?
Good morning. I am doing well. Thank you.
Good. Are you joining us from your home?
I am joining us from my home. Yes.
Good. Uh, Lindsay, we've talked some. You've kind of told me a little bit of your story. I would love for Northside to hear it. You, like me, did not grow up celebrating Holy Week, but it became a significant portion of your life, something you and your family observe. From what I understand from some positive experiences in colleges, would you just kind of share with us that story and when did you come to first observe Holy Week and what's it meant for you?
Yeah. So I grew up at Northside. Obviously we've always celebrated Good Friday and Easter Sunday, but never really talked about the week leading up to it. Um, and when I was in college, I took a job, as most college kids do, because we want to buy things. And it was a youth associate minister, an associate youth minister.
Mhm.
And it was at a Presbyterian church. It was First Presbyterian Church of Bryan, Texas. That was at A&M. And this was new to me when I was searching online, back in the day, like classified ads for um, jobs. I was
Uh-huh.
a little bit intimidated by the fact that it was a Presbyterian church, but the way that I was raised just in my own family was that, if you believe in Jesus being your
Hmm.
savior, then you're good. And
Hmm.
so I was like, well, Presbyterians believe that too, so I can work for them. Um, so I went and I interviewed and I ended up getting the position and I really learned a lot while I was working there. They do things very similarly to the Church of Christ, but they also do things very differently.
Hmm.
And one of the things that they do really well is celebrating Holy Week. And they really take the whole week into reverence. And so my very first Palm Sunday with them, I was like, well, back up because Ash Wednesday comes before Palm Sunday. So my very
Right.
first Ash Wednesday with them, I'm the associate youth minister. I've got to do what the youth kids do. And I didn't believe that there was anything biblically wrong with celebrating Ash Wednesday. So of course I went and I, got the ashes on my forehead. And then I had to go home and do a little bit of like, wait, what just happened to me? Um,
Uh-huh.
but so they did Ash Wednesday, and then kind of, we talk about Lent, and they all celebrate Lent. And so that was my first time giving up something for Lent because, all my youth kids are like, well, what are you giving up? So
Yeah.
um, I remember my very first Lent with them, I gave up Dr. Pepper, which was like huge to me because I was obsessed with Dr. Pepper.
Hmm.
And I got a little cranky because I also don't drink coffee. And so that's my caffeine. And so it was like this giant joke with all the kids, like, oh, well, she's just cranky because she hasn't had her Dr. They would like drink their Dr. Peppers in front of me. Um,
Uh-huh.
but I learned through working with the youth kids. And so fast forward then to Palm Sunday. And not only is it like 1 week until I can have Dr. Pepper again, it's it was just this beautiful service that they did. And so they line the aisles of their sanctuary with cloaks, and then they have the kids stand up in the service and wave their palms and say Hosanna. And I was like, wow, this is not really a story that we really ever focused on in the Church of Christ, which like it's a part of the Bible, so I don't
Right.
know why, but it just was one of those stories of like, oh yeah, that happened, we're gonna move on. Um, and so I really like just I guess that's how I came to know Holy Week was through
Yeah.
working with the youth kids and having to become well versed on what I was teaching and celebrating with them. I needed to know about as well.
Yeah. And that funny, that's that cliche. There's no better way to learn than to teach.
Right, exactly. I was like, what am I, what's happening? But it was either that or like working at HEB and so I think I had a really good experience with my college work and I learned so much.
Yeah. So one of the things that it sounds like was happening for you, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was this like stepping into the story because the way you were brought up, the story was always friendly, but maybe there wasn't this like, man, I'm actually like practicing the story.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I'm living it out. So what was that like? How did that like work on on a heart level for you?
Yeah. So of course I grew up having friends of all faiths. And so I knew that these things existed, but I never really
Mhm.
knew like why they were. I never did a deep dive, as a child or even a young adult. Like I never did a deep dive into why are my Catholic friends giving up stuff for Lent.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was huge in that I went from like just knowing that it existed to actually realizing why people do it.
Yeah.
And but I had this very small time between realizing why people do it and then having to do it.
Mhm.
So I was basically just like thrust in kind of without an option. And it was great. Like that first Lent that I did, gosh, 15, 16 years ago. I have now done Lent every year
Mhm.
since, because it was just like such an easy way. Not easy, I don't want to say easy because giving up something or adding on something, this year I
Mhm.
added on something versus giving up, but it's never easy. But in the larger picture, it is an easy way of remembering what Jesus did for us.
Yeah. So, and you mentioned you've done it every year since, like, why is it worth it for you to keep doing it? What's it adding to you and your walk with Jesus? What's it adding to your family as you're raising up two littles, and trying to, like most parents do, make Jesus come alive for them? Why is this worth it for you?
Yeah, so um we haven't started, like I haven't asked my kids to do Lent
Mhm.
yet. I think they're still
Mhm.
too little, but they know that Luke
Mhm.
and I are doing it.
Mhm.
Um and they saw us do Ash Wednesday, and they'll see us celebrate Good Friday. And so, in that aspect, we are slowly raising them differently than we were raised. And I would say that it's important for me, and this is kind of part of Luke's story as well, is that he was raised in the Church of Christ, and so this is
Mhm.
not something that they do. Um, and when we got married, he still kind of hadn't come around to that. Like he never thought it was wrong, but he was like, okay, you can do Lent, but I'm not going to do Lent. And
Right.
then very soon after that, he was like, wait, this is a great thing. Like I'm going to start doing Lent too. So now we both do it together. And I think for me, it has remained important because um, I'm just going to be completely honest. I struggle with getting into the Bible every day. I don't
Sure.
the one thing that I can do well every day is pray, and that is all I can claim to do well every day. Um, I don't open my Bible every day. I don't sit and have times of meditation. I don't often have quiet time to listen for God's voice. And so during the Lent season, and especially during Holy Week, because I do spend a little bit more time during Holy Week.
Yeah.
Um, it's just it's like a forced time for me, if that makes sense. And no one's
Totally.
forcing me to do it except for myself, but it's like I've committed to this and I can't stop it. It's almost like a New Year's resolution, but it doesn't last 365 days, so it's easier to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just a really good spiritual practice for me.
Yeah, I mean, what you're reminding me of is how close the words discipleship and discipline are. Um, to be a disciple, you have to have some spiritual disciplines, and so you're discipling yourself, you're disciplining yourself to do this, and you're seeing the fruits of it. And everyone, we don't. Everyone doesn't learn the same way. We all know that some children are kinesthetic learners, some children are visual learners and auditory learners, but we often don't give ourselves the same credit for some of the spiritual disciplines, like what disciples you might need to be different than what disciples me. The thing is we're doing it right, and you're trying it. So I love what you shared, and it sounds really beautiful to me. Okay, let's jump in. It's Monday of Holy Week. Jesus, the day before Palm Sunday, has come into Jerusalem on a colt, and like you said quite well, the 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 common people, the bystanders of Jerusalem, have lined his way and put their cloaks down and waved palm branches and shouted, "Hosanna, Hosanna!" And now Jesus comes into the city and does some weird things, curses a fig tree, cleanses the temple. As you read this, what are some things that jumped out at you? What were things that you liked or things that you wondered about? We're just wanting to notice what's happening in the story.
Yeah. So Jesus cleansing the temple is one that's huge. Like that's something
Yeah.
that we studied even when we were little.
Mm-hmm.
The temple is not a place for trade, it's a place for
Mm-hmm.
worship. It's holy. Um, he calls them thieves and he turns over tables. That's like a fun story that kids tell. Oh yeah, Jesus turned over tables in church one time. Like, so that's one that I grew up knowing.
Sure.
Um, so the withered fig tree is like oddly one that gets skipped over. And I think it's
Mm-hmm.
because during the season that we're learning about Jesus coming back into Jerusalem, we're just so focused on Easter that we skip over all these little stories.
Yep.
So I was appreciative when you gave me these verses to talk about because the withered fig tree was so interesting to me. So for those that don't have any idea what I'm talking about, it's Mark chapter 11, verse 20. That's where the story
Mm-hmm.
starts. And Jesus is hungry. So he walks over to this fig tree and there's no fruit. And he's like, "You're never going to produce fruit again." And then he just walks away. And the disciples are like, "What?" And then the next day they come out and the tree is completely withered. And they're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Whoa," like
Mm-hmm.
Jesus got real mad there.
Uh-huh.
So that was just I loved that story. But it was, it's also I had to do a little bit of digging into like what does that mean? Because a lot of times you read Bible stories and you're like, Jesus wasn't just like hangry, like he
Yeah.
had a reason to do that. Um,
Is this
so
just
I
totally
I did a little
random? Yeah.
research, right? So I did
Yeah.
a little research and I figured out that he's talking about like Israel and like
Mm-hmm.
having faith without bearing fruit is not actually having faith.
Right.
So I really liked that story, and I'm actually sitting in front of my fig tree, which is non-fruit
Nice.
producing. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna set up in my living room where I have my giant fig tree for this because I just loved this story so much.
Awesome.
Um,
I'm glad you pointed that out because I did not know that that was a fig tree.
yeah, so this is a fig tree and it does not produce fruit, but it's also not
Okay.
withered. So
Okay. Okay. Perfect metaphor for God's grace.
yes, exactly. Um,
So, yeah, keep going.
Oh, well, then I was just gonna say, like, the last part of the reading you gave me was, Mark 11, 27
Hmm.
through 33. And it's basically just
Hmm.
uh the religious leaders questioning Jesus, like, who are you to tell us what we can and can't do in the temple?
Right.
And he said, "Well, did you question John the Baptist when he was baptizing people?" And they were like, they didn't really have an answer for that. So
Right. Yeah. So, like, if you could step into Mark's head, right? And of course we can't, but just the mental exercise here. What do you think? What do you think he's trying to get us to understand? He kind of arranges the story in an odd way, right? It's like fig tree, temple, fig tree, temple. Like, what's your best guess at what he's wanting us? Like, what's his point?
I really feel like you should ask Luke that because I am not the Bible scholar, but I I mean, I think that he's just trying to tell us that, I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I'm again not a Bible scholar.
All
What I
right.
took out of it is just that Jesus is like kind of making small steps towards his eventual death. He's taking one
Yeah.
step forward and then one step back, and then one step forward and one step back. And so I think that's just kind of what we're going to see throughout the book of Mark is just, he makes a victory, he has a failure. He makes a victory, he has a failure.
Yeah.
It's never really a failure. It's like a
Yeah.
step.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like the way you said that. There's almost this like prodding, right? He keeps like Jesus is not a provocateur really, but like he's going to the temple and it's unacceptable what they're doing there, and
Yeah.
the fig tree is unacceptable to him, and it's 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 what you're saying reminds me of this way that like Jesus is not a conflictual person, but like when you drop the the Son of God into corruptness, like it's like a reaction, right? Like he can't he can't just go to the temple and see what's happening and be cool with it.
And he's also been very chill, like in his whole ministry up
Mhm,
till then.
mhm,
Like he's been like, hey, don't make a big deal about me. I'm gonna do my
mhm,
miracles
mhm.
in solitude. Like I don't want attention. And now he's kind of like, listen, y'all, this is the end of my rope. Literally, I am
Yeah.
just gonna start throwing tables over.
Yeah, it almost reminds me of that science experiment where you drop Mentos into Diet Coke. Like,
Yeah.
there's just this reaction, right? The two
Yeah. He's at that point.
can't
Yeah.
be there. Yeah, that's well said. There, I think I I've been so blessed by this sermon series because like it has brought out for me that just the you said it really well, how he's just been kind of calm. It's not about Jesus. There's this, he's almost like asking people to keep his secret, but it's been this slow, steady building of tension. And now we're getting there. And it reminds me of what you said earlier too about like stepping into the story of this week as we lead up to Easter has really helped me in a similar way to what you've described my discipleship. Like I loved field trips in school. I liked going to the zoo because I would learn a lot more about monkeys and tigers and bears by going and looking at them than reading about them. And for me, this almost feels like a field trip with Jesus. We're walking through Jerusalem with him. So I loved what you pointed out. The fig tree is it's weird. It's in the temple. I had the same experience. I learned about the temple, cleansing of the temple all the time as a kid, but that fig tree is weird, but in some ways they're the same story too. And so um, I loved what you said about Jesus taking one step forward, two steps back, and just reacting in this context. Um, Last question I want you to kind of leave us with is what is what is something as you're sitting in this and you're sitting around your fig tree that's not a fig bearing fig tree, what is like one possible takeaway from this story, from living with Jesus in Holy Week on Monday? What's something that you want to hang on to as a disciple of Jesus?
Yeah. So um I think the one thing that I took away from the scriptures that you asked me to
Mhm.
study is just that it's different to have faith and to
Mhm.
practice faith. Um,
Say more.
so so you can have, it's like the fig tree. You can have faith, but have no action and just kind of be complacent with what's going on around you. Um, and you're just the withered fig tree.
Wow.
Uh, you can believe in Jesus and believe that the temple or the church, whatever you want to say, back then or now, is a holy place, but be doing bad things in it, or
Hmm.
doing bad things with Christ's people, um, and you're not actually being faithful. just because you have a faith, you're being faithful. And so, yeah, that's kind of just that's what I take out of this. And that's what I'm going to choose to remember on this Holy Monday.
That's beautifully said. I love that. I've never heard it phrased that way. There's a difference between having faith and being faithful. Okay, that's a great way to end it. Thank you so much for being the very first person. And Northside, I hope you enjoyed this. There's going to be 3 more of these. So we'll have Mike Ibram tomorrow and a couple more after him. And if you feel comfortable coming to Good Friday and you're available, we'll be at Northside on Friday. What was that going to be? That's going to be the 18th, Friday the 18th. So join us for that. Okay, Lindsay, thank you so much. And Northside, hope you have a great day.